Guess what, Hustleites? The glorious one is back. The glorious one is back to spread the truth to you. I saw the comments. I saw the likes. I saw the dislikes. And the glorious professor loved every minute of it. I'm going to defend it and do all I must, because I'll never give in until the end, my friend. And welcome back, Hustleites. Welcome back. I am the illustrious one, aka the king of the hoopla, aka Mr. Wonderful, and aka Mr. Glorious himself, the professor. Here for episode 2 of laying the smackdown on all y'all candy asses, exclusively here on the PW Hustle Networks. And for this episode, I just want to say one thing to all the hustleites out there, that laying the smackdown is not, predicated to SmackDown Live. The professor's going to lay the smackdown on all facets of wrestling. Sometimes the professor will lay the smackdown on what he sees going on Monday Night Raw. Sometimes the professor's going to lay the smackdown on what's going on in NXT, TNA, ROH, New Japan, and all points in between. Because the professor has a lot of things and a lot of subjects that he needs to lay the smackdown on all the candy asses in the IWC, YWC. So look out for future episodes of those laying smackdowns. But for this episode of laying the smackdown with the professor, I want to concentrate more so about the WWE draft. I want to concentrate on the rumors that's going around, that they're talking about. They're going to make trades, quote unquote. There might be some trades between Raw and SmackDown in the upcoming future. But at the end of it all, the professor's not going to talk about, the rumored trades. The professor, when he's laying the smackdown, is going to tell you some ugly truths. And the decisions that the WWE writers made on their draft selections have come to bite them in the ass. And we're in that 4th week of Raw and SmackDown's brand split. So at the end of the day, the professor has noticed 3 stars in particular on the Raw side that technically don't belong on Raw. They should have been drafted to SmackDown. And I know some of those names you already know, but the professor wants to go a little bit in depth as to why these 3 in particular belong on SmackDown. And I'm going to rank them from 3rd to 1st. 3rd representing that this person definitely needs to be traded to SmackDown in any way, shape, or form. To number 1, which really kind of represents that they don't necessarily need to go to SmackDown because this person actually fits on both shows. But it would help that if he goes to SmackDown. All right, Hustleites. So let's get on with the 3 WWE superstars that I believe deserve to be on SmackDown and deserve to have that main event push, to get to the next level. And that's what is most importantly here. Just remember, Hustleites, in 2002 or 2003, the first brand splits. Who did it benefit when they split the brands? It benefited people like Edge. It benefited people like Eddie Guerrero. It benefited people like Chris Benoit. It benefited Rey Mysterio, to name a few. And why did it benefit them? Because they were in the middle, but they just needed that plateau. They needed a platform to apply their craft and to be taken seriously and to be going to the next level where they are main event players. And history, 15 years later, you got some legends right there. You got some icons right there. So it's not wrong to put with the brand split if you are committed to it. In 2016, if you're committed to that brand split, if you're committed with the same formula of taking some people who are right there in the middle, but just need that little extra push. And SmackDown Live is a great vehicle to do it if they're committed to it. and not just be forced to go back to, integrating everybody again on one umbrella. It's not worth it for these guys. So let's go with number 3 on the professor's list of who needs to go on SmackDown, who needs to be traded to SmackDown Live. And number 3 is Sami Zayn. And after 4 weeks, Sami Zayn needs to be on SmackDown Live. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. This man is a perfect example of not belonging on Raw. I'm not disrespecting the wrestler Sami Zayn. I'm not discrediting what he was meant for at NXT. He was billed as the heart and soul of NXT, and I like somebody to be billed as the heart and soul. I am the professor. I'm old school. I always invested my interest to people like Tommy Dreamer, who was billed as the heart and soul of ECW. And when you're built like that, it's about determination, it's about passion, it's about guts, glory, all that roll up into one. The man's going to give you everything, every ounce of blood, every ounce of sweat, every ounce of tears in those matches when you're built like that. But what happens is he's on Raw. He's lost in the shuffle. He just doesn't belong there. He has no chemistry with nobody on Raw. It's self-evident. This past Monday on Raw, he had a builder match for really Sheamus and Cesaro. He was just a filler. He doesn't belong excuse me, Hustle Lights. He doesn't belong on Raw. It just doesn't fit there. He's more in the weeks and months to come. If he stays there, he's going to be enhancement talent. He's going to have great matches with people like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Rusev, Sheamus, Finn Balor. But at the end of the day, he's going to come up short. At the end of the day, the IWC, YWC is going to say, oh, WWE is dropping the ball again on someone like Sami Zayn. But reality hits, Hustleites. If I'm telling you that he doesn't belong on Raw, if I'm telling you that there's no chemistry for Sami Zayn to be on Raw, he doesn't belong there. And what do I do as a businessman? What do I do as a booker? I make sure I put him on SmackDown because he fits on SmackDown. He fits being in that main event playing in that main event player role. He can have great matches with AJ Styles. He can have great matches with Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. He can put over because of what his status. He could put over people like Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, and Kalisto. He could be that leader to make young guys over. And of course, he could have a revenge match. Now hear me out, Hustleites. He could have a revenge match with John Cena. He never really got a chance to prove himself to John Cena. He fought once, he fought with a bum shoulder, and still gave it his all. That's what being the heart and soul of NXT was meant for him. He could be the heart and soul of SmackDown Live. He can have that second match with John Cena. He can have a match that says, John, I wasn't at 100%, but I want to know, I need to know if I'm a better man than you are. That's already money in the bank right there. I pay to see that. I would renew my subscription to see that kind of shit. So Sami Zayn needs to be traded to Raw. And now number 2 on the professor's list of people who need to go to SmackDown Live, Cesaro. Now what does number 2 represent? Well, they're trying to build him on Raw. You understand? They're trying to give him a storyline. Because the storyline was right there from the beginning. From the jump. He said he wanted to be traded. I mean, not traded. He wanted to be drafted to SmackDown Live. He thought there was a better opportunity on SmackDown Live. But there's a problem to me. He just doesn't have that kind of chemistry with Mick Foley to have that hurdle to get to the next level on Raw. Yes, Mick Foley sees, is going to build it as I see potential in Cesaro. I'm going to give him every opportunity to prove himself on the Raw roster. But at the end of the day, if you're going to invest in somebody like that, it just, it's not going to live up to the hype. You understand what I mean? He's going to have great matches, and he always delivers with great matches. He's a great technical wrestler. He puts on a hell of a show. He had a great match with Cesaro. With Cesaro. That's like fighting himself. He had great matches with Sheamus. He had a great match with Rusev for the U.S. title. So it's right there. He can do it. But if you trade him to SmackDown Live, he can be on the next level already. He could already be challenging for the Intercontinental Championship with Miz. He's got revenge on his. He already has storylines built in with revenge on his mind for the title that eluded him at Money in the Bank. It was one of those matches of the year, and he came up short. Again, great matches with Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler. Matches with meaning, just two people clashing together. And of course, being the elder statesman as he is, being the older man, he can bring up younger cats like Apollo Crews, Baron Corbin, Kalisto, all that stuff. Bring up those young guys. Get them on an even playing field. But Cesaro will be right there as one of the figureheads of SmackDown Live. That's what SmackDown Live does. It gets these people to the next level, but it also gives them a bigger status. It gives them more relevancy. It gives them, again, the main event. You want them. You want to be invested in them. And that's the name of the game here for SmackDown Live. That's what they needed. Now, him being on Raw, what do I see? He's going to have a best-of-7 series match with Sheamus starting at SummerSlam. And you know what? People could be, dissing that with, well, they're not fighting for a title. It's not like Booker T and Chris Benoit back in the day when they had a best-of-7 for the World Television title. They didn't say a best-of-7 would become the #1 contender to the United States champion. Maybe that will be down the road, but who knows? But some people feel, it's not worth it. Okay, you're going to have 7 great matches with these two guys, but there's no payoff for it. And that's the era of the writers. They should have said that from jump. But of course, we all know the WWE writers, and I'm very objective. If they mess up, the professor's going to say it. So you're going to have a great best-of-7 series between Cesaro and Sheamus, but again, there's just no payoff. What happens afterwards? Cesaro might win a 7 series match. He might get a title shot, but then it just leaves you, empty-handed. It just leaves you not fulfilled. And again, this man, to me, needs to be on SmackDown Live. Make it happen, Shane. Make it happen, Steph. Find a way. It has to happen. You got to do that. No matter what, you got to do that. He needs it. Even though you're building a storyline around him on Raw, it just doesn't mesh with the professor. I don't buy it. I'm not invested 100%. I'm giving it a chance. I'm like 50-50 on it. But again, I feel he would be much better fit on SmackDown Live. And I already laid out the reasons. And the #1 man who maybe doesn't need to be on SmackDown. Actually, he fits well on both shows. But the only difference is, on Raw, he's a mid-card to upper mid-card. But if he gets traded to SmackDown, he's a main event player, and he alone can bill himself as the face of SmackDown. And I'm talking about Kevin Owens. You've heard that name on the dirt sheets, Hustleites. And I'm going to give you the reasons why, he fits on both shows. And the one advantage that Kevin Owens has that Cesaro and Sami Zayn doesn't is his mouth. He's charismatic. He can talk. For a 3-hour Raw, I'm interested in Kevin Owens entertaining me with a great promo. I'm interested in Kevin Owens giving that great match if given the time. He can do both. He fits well. He can mesh with anybody on the Raw roster. Look at what's going on with him and Chris Jericho. Jericho. That's a great tag team in itself. And if they want to, Kevin Owens can turn on Chris Jericho and they can have a program with each other to see who's Canada's greatest export or Canada's greatest athlete of today. Again, He can work well with Rollins. He can work well with Roman Reigns. He can get that revenge on Finn Balor. He could go after the U.S. title with Rusev. But any person that you put Kevin Owens in front of, it's going to be, number one, a great program, and number two, great matches. But, again, you want to put him on SmackDown, he goes from one little level, mid-card, upper mid-card, and he alone, and I know this for a fact, he would build himself as the face that runs the place on SmackDown. You know he would want revenge on John Cena. You know those great matches. You know he can have great matches with AJ Styles. Go on YouTube and see Kevin Owens and AJ Styles on those house shows. They were good. There were some good quality matches. Bray Wyatt. He could go after the Intercontinental title that eluded him at WrestleMania against The Miz. Again, bring up the young cats. I don't have to explain that again. But Kevin Owens, would be the man. He can be one of the men that WWE depends on. And again, on both shows, he fits well because he can work well with anybody. Excuse me, like I said, with his mouth and his charisma and his promo skills, again, it just shows you right there. He can work well with others, and he can talk. He can entertain you, either on a 3-hour Raw or a 2-hour SmackDown Live. And I think he would be perfect for that. So then the question is, how do you trade 3 people like that? How do you do a 3-for-1 trade? Because, the best scenario is maybe those 3 for Randy Orton. Because Randy Orton belongs on Raw. And I think Randy Orton really does deserve to be on Raw more than SmackDown, in my humble opinion. But how do you work that out? And it's simple. The best way to work out a 3-for-1 trade or a 2-for-1 trade, whatever you want to call it, is that Randy Orton loses at SummerSlam. Not by 30 suplexes, but he comes so close and Brock Lesnar has to cheat. And Randy Orton feels slighted. And he messes up Raws, he messes up SmackDowns and says, I want to be traded to Raw because I want my revenge on Brock Lesnar. So what do the GMs do? They talk about it, and you could do a 2-for-1 trade or a 3-for-1 trade. It works out. I think all people would be happy. SmackDown gets a lot of quantity and quality at the same time. And of course, on Raw, you get the 12-time former heavyweight champion in Randy Orton. And you can get those matches those great matches with Seth Rollins again. Those dream matches with Randy Orton and Finn Balor. The great matches with Roman Reigns. I know you don't want to hear that, but they've had some great matches when it got a little bit later. Not the first part of those matches, but the second part. But the trade needs to happen. They have to find a way. So the only way that makes sense to you and I is Randy Orton needs to feel cheated that Brock Lesnar took a shortcut to win his match at SummerSlam. And then you do the 3-for-1 trade, and then it makes sense to the IWC, YWC, and you just go full speed ahead. And now you got 3 guys that could go on SmackDown Live and tear the house down every Tuesday. So before I close on laying the smack it down on the Candy Asses episode 2, I just want to leave a little bit of a final commentary because, a lot of people in the IWC, YWC were very funny on Twitter. And the professor just wants to address it for a second. It just was so comical to me how a lot of people were very mad at the WWE writers. They said they blew their load when Roman Reigns and Rusev fought on Monday Night Raw, wasting a pay-per-view match, on Raw. And it's funny to me, IWC, YWC, that, you have selective memory. I don't know if you have selective memory or you just select your hate. But you know what? I've been watching wrestling for many, many years. And not to defend WWE, but you know what? This scenario has been done before. You know what I mean? Some wrestling company, I'm not going to say who, let's just say WCW, put on their Monday Nitro 4 days before pay-per-view They put a main event on Monday Nitro. Hulk Hogan versus Lex Luger. Does that ring a bell, Hustleites? For the heavyweight title? And Lex Luger won it? Only for 4 days later to lose it in the pay-per-view match against Hulk Hogan at Hog Wild in 1997? So a scenario like that has been done. They've had matches on a Monday show to, predicate to a pay-per-view. It has been done before. Not generally the match itself to be repeated, but sometimes you do like little tag team matches. You do six-man actions, but you always try to mesh the two people that are fighting on a pay-per-view together in some way, shape, or form. Now, did I like it that they had a match? No. I wish that they just did like backstage brawls. In hour 1, Rusev got the better of Roman Reigns, and maybe in hour 3. Roman Reigns gets a little bit of revenge in the locker room against Rusev, and you leave it at that. You had security break them up and keep them separated, and then they fight, and then you know that fight on Sunday at SummerSlam would have been something more epic. Yes, maybe they blew their load a little bit, but you know what? Like I said, you have selective memory, IWC, YWC. Why do you do this? I have to now come at you to say that this has happened. And you know what the difference is? That you might say, oh, the ratings were higher. Oh, that shit made more sense. No, it didn't. It's the same thing. Sometimes you just blow your load early on before you do a pay-per-view match. They did it. So Roman Reigns wins on Monday, and then the next thing you're going to bitch and complain about is that 50-50 booking that you hate. So if Roman Reigns wins on Monday, then that means on Sunday at SummerSlam, Rusev might have to retain his U.S. title. He might have to make Roman Reigns humble with the match clamp. And then you're going to complain about that. So there's no pleasing you, YWC. I know that. I'm not here to sway you in any shape or fashion. I'm just here to remind you of your history, because sometimes you do forget. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching episode 2 of Laying the Smackdown on all your candy asses. And you can follow the professor here on YouTube. Make sure to like this content here. And make sure you subscribe to the PW Hustle networks. We have PW Hustle, the original. We have PW Hustle 2 and PW Hustle networks. So please subscribe to all three. You get some wonderful content on each and every channel. And we thank you for always subscribing to us. You can follow me, the professor, the illustrious one, on Twitter at PROFPW Hustle. That's aka Professor PW Hustle. And also follow my other Us family members. You can follow the victorious Billy Ray Valentine at Obi-Wan You Know Me. And you can follow the notorious 8-Track Round, the dirtiest of the city, at Pharaoh of Fancy. And also, make sure to go on the bottom of the link, because I'm going to have the recent PW Hustle video podcast available here on this content, on this show here. So after you watch Laying the Smackdown, why don't you click on that link and enjoy that PW Hustle video podcast, all right? So I am the illustrious professor, and I'd like to say goodnight, and see you next time on Laying the Smackdown on your candy asses. Peace.